Okay, here we go. This is another things I like mixed with things I don't like. And today, uh, this guy, no, this guy here, Santa Claus. What a character, huh? Lives at the North Pole. I'm not sure what he does all year, but supposedly it takes him all year to make all those toys. If you're gonna watch any of the old Christmas shows we used to have, my favorite one was with Burl Ives, and they go to the Isle of the Misfit toys, and kid wants to be a dentist, or he's an elf, and he wants to be a dentist, but he's stuck in an elf shop, and he's supposed to be making toys, but he doesn't. Anyway, that was one of my favorite Christmas shows when I was a kid, and you used to be able to get that. My favorite scene was when they're at the Isle of the Misfit Toys and they sing a little song, and it's just I've often felt like a misfit when I was a kid, and so I just really had related to that scene. But I would have a picture of that on the screen right now, but you used to be able to watch that little scene on YouTube. You can't do it anymore. They took it off. So if you want to pay for it on YouTube to watch the old movie, you can do that. Of course, I'm a cheap bastard, so I'm not going to do that. Anyways, that's a diversion. Santa Claus. He's a jolly enough character. He makes toys all year, and on Christmas Eve, he hooks up his Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the other 8 reindeer, and he takes off with this big bag of toys and his sleigh. And there's lots of snow and landing on snowy rooftops and going down chimneys. And I never did figure out when I was a kid how that fat fucker gets down all those little bitty chimneys. Or how he makes it to every house in one night. Or how he collects all that good kid and bad kid on his list. Charlie Brown. Uh, no, that was Thanksgiving, wasn't it? He got a rock. I got a rock. No, that was Thanksgiving. Um, yeah, there were always stories about kids getting a lump of coal instead of a present in their sock that hangs over the fireplace. When I was a kid, we never got any rocks or lumps of coals. We always got candy, and it seemed like there was always an orange in the bottom of that sock. It was fun. I had a lot of fun when every Christmas, and we were just super jolly to. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, opening the presents and. See, Dad's got his elf hat on. He's not the real Santa Claus, is he? You never know. Uh, anyway, so yeah, I noticed Rudolph is missing from that picture, but yeah, I always thought it was cute, you know, this whole concept of Santa Claus flying through the sky. And the weathermen are always, sometimes it's a weather lady now, thank goodness, um, tracking Santa Claus on those big expensive maps on the wall in the news studios. Tracking Santa for the kids. Y'all don't tell the kids there's no Santa Claus. So we got to track Santa Claus on this supposedly serious news program. I guess we need a little bit of comedy and entertainment mixed in with our news, where the news is primarily folks getting shot and things getting blown up in the Middle East and stuff like that. We gotta have our comedy and track Santa Claus. And I've always liked Christmas trees. I mean, you know, they're pretty. And I've always liked Christmas lights. And I was going to have a picture. I guess I should have had that. Christmas lights. Oh, yeah, that's a pretty one, isn't it? Look at that. Oh, it's in another tab. There it is. Christmas lights. Oh, man. I, you know, Christmas. Of course, I grew up in a Christian household and surrounded by other Christians and a zillion churches, one on every corner, and was, you know, we're always talking about in church how commercialization has stolen Christmas, and the real purpose of Christmas is Jesus Christ was born. Yeah, sure. There was no census that year, and they can't decide whether he was really born in Bethlehem or whether he was born in Nazareth. And they can't decide whether Nazareth was a real place because supposedly he was the Nazarene, which translated into the anointed one, not person from Nazareth. And apparently the town of Nazareth was invented to fulfill this scripture. I like Christmas a lot better when it's commercialized. I've heard a lot of complaints about Christmas being commercialized. But frankly, it's just so much more fun when it's commercialized. But there's just one thing that just bugs the shit out of me. And really, it's this guy. Okay, I don't have anything against this guy. He dresses up like Santa Claus, and I guess this is, who knows which version of Santa Claus this is. Is this the studio actor version of Santa Claus, or just the photo op Santa Claus, or just the mall Santa Claus, or the department store Santa Claus, or the party Santa Claus? Who knows? We gotta have 1,000 zillion people dress up as Santa Claus every year. And we tell the children, oh, well, of course it's, you know, they're not all the real Santa Claus. Santa has got to have his helpers, you know. So, you know, all the children can go sit in Santa's lap and tell him, Santa, I need a new train for Christmas. I remember when I was a kid in the 70s, 60s, we didn't think anything about sitting on the Santa's lap, but, these days, that might be a little bit creepy. Some old guy in his 40s with a bunch of kids filing in, one at a time, sitting on Santa's lap. I have a feeling there's places where that doesn't happen anymore, which is fine by me because I'm not too comfortable with some random Santa Claus having a bunch of kids sitting on his lap. It's just a little bit too creepy these days. I wonder what they were thinking in the 60s. Anyway, that's not really my biggest problem. I suppose the vast majority of encounters between children and Santa Claus are benign. I mean, there's some room in there for some weirdness to happen, but the real problem for me is the fact that parents around the world are lying to their children about Santa Claus. And I am sick. I am sick and tired of people lying to their children about Santa Claus. Of course, Santa's real. Yes, Virginia, there's really a Santa Claus. I understand the spirit of Santa Claus and the joy of giving and all that goodly junk. The older I've gotten, the more I just feel less and less and less interested in sitting in a group and ripping paper off of presents. I mean, it's cool, okay, but I suppose if I had, you know, a big income, it'd be a lot more fun than I could actually buy people stuff. Have some joy watching them rip the paper off their presents. But, being a poor guy, I just don't have any income, so I can't participate from that part of it. So I just feel like if you want something during the year, just go out and buy it. Whatever you want, within reason. If you're a poor guy, you're not going to have a lot of options. But if you're just disappointed that somebody didn't buy you enough presents throughout the year, or at Christmas especially, well, boo-hoo. I guess the classic response is bah humbug. But still, I understand the joy of giving, and my favorite part of Christmas and Thanksgiving, for that matter, is the food. I just love to eat ham and turkey and dressing and bean casserole and pumpkin pie. I just, I have to have my cranberry sauce. And, I remember Aunt Sybil used to make this cream corn. Her husband had the white corn. It was just had a different taste, and I think she put some sugar in there too, though. Anyway, it was really good, and Thanksgiving, my grandmother always was the one that got us all together, and the same for Christmas. We always went over to Aunt Floyd's house for Christmas and had all the kids and cousins and whatnot, and had a big gift opening deal on Christmas Eve. And it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. But I don't remember how old I was when I discovered that Santa Claus was my parents. I remember one evening a few weeks before Christmas, uh, Dad sat us all down in a pile and he said, listen, I just want to have a talk with you kids today about this year's Christmas. Uh, things haven't really been all that great with our the amount of money we're making, and well, you might not get everything you want for Christmas this year. And all during this thing, I was thinking, well, I'd really like to have a so and so and this so and whatnot, and uh, but I do remember thinking in the back of my mind that why are we having this conversation about how much money our parents are making if Santa Claus is the one bringing the presents? Well, of course, I knew by that time, I don't know how old I was, 10 or 11. I knew by that time that, yeah, your parents are Santa Claus. I don't know how old I was when this came about, but I do remember one year driving home from Aunt Floyd's house on Christmas Eve after we had all our big present opening deal, and it was always a big dinner, and the adults all in the group, and there was always a bunch of them, uh, want to eat dinner before we open presents, So can we just open one? No, we gotta eat. You gotta eat dinner first, and it was always just took forever. You're just sitting in front of the TV waiting to open presents, and we gotta sit through while all the adults are arriving and the uncles and aunts coming in the door and with their piles of presents and whatnot, and getting the food ready and sitting on the table, and man, we kids just wanted to open all the presents. So we developed this culture of gimme, gimme, gimme culture of giving presents on Christmas. And it was fun when I was a kid, but I just look back on that experience and think, man, we were just a bunch of gimme, gimme, gimme kids. I don't even know if we appreciated all the junk we got for Christmas every year. We could barely afford it, was the impression I ended up with. And I'm still left now with the fact that we're lying to our children about Santa Claus, and we disagree. Some people say, "Well, I'm not going to lie to my children about Santa Claus." If they ask, I'll say that, "Yep, Santa Claus is not real. It's just a character that we made up to have fun with." And but you know, um, we're teaching our children that lying is a bad thing to do. You shouldn't lie about stuff, because it hurts people. But yet we're lying about Santa Claus. Every kid sometime in their life has to discover that Santa Claus is not real. And maybe some of them work it out in some way that it's not painful to discover. Maybe don't even call it a lie. It was just a fantasy that we played out for fun, and Wouldn't really call it a lie. It's a lie. Okay? It's a lie. Now, to me, there's a deeper problem. There's this once you discover that Santa Claus is not real, your parents are still telling you that God is real. And, maybe your teachers and all the people at church, and at least 3 times a week on Wednesday night and Sunday morning, Sunday evening. And by God, if there's a revival every day of the week, I grew up in a Baptist church, so uh, usually some part of every church service was a guy, and it was a guy. Women weren't allowed to be pastors. Southern Baptist Convention, just by the way. Um, I last went to church in 1985. So, is Santa Claus a conditioning device? If you can believe in Santa Claus, then you can believe in the creator of the universe? Is it that much harder to give up the creator of the universe that watches you pee and masturbate and cares who you have sex with and what sex they are, whether you're a gay person or a trans person or a black person? I, I just I just can't care about that guy anymore. I mean, technically, I've been an atheist for 34 years. I discovered that I was an atheist when I was 25. I should have discovered it sooner. I would say I walked down the aisle and got saved at 9, but no, my sister walked down the aisle at 8, and I happened to be sitting on the front row because I always sat on the front row because my mother was the organist, which I loved, by the way. I absolutely adore organ music, except for some of the more boring 3-chord hymns that are constantly used. But all the Bach and Liszt and all the classics and baroques, those organ composers were just phenomenal. I love all that stuff. But I hung around with my mother a lot when she was doing organ practice, and so I just ended up in the front seat all the time. Um, so when my sister came down the aisle and said that she was to be saved, or um, I just stood up. I said, "Well, if she's doing it, I can do it." Well, afterwards, you go through the little class that says, you get a little booklet that says, "What now? Do you don't feel any different?" And maybe, the Holy Ghost has, it's there, you just don't know it yet. you got to pray right and listen right and do right. Then you'll know God. Well, I'm sorry, I tried real fucking hard from 9. Well, probably from before 9. I tried real fucking hard to believe it. I never saw God. I never heard God. I never felt like there was a God. And just Santa Claus, just the line about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and God on top of the whole thing. It just there's a lot of lying to our children. Now, maybe if you believe it, you're not lying. But you're certainly lying about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. The parents and the cousins are going out, the grown-up cousins are going out and hiding the eggs for you. Well, you know, the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny was. We learned about the Easter Bunny way, way before we learned about Santa Claus. The Easter Bunny's not going out there hiding the eggs. We're sitting in the kitchen waiting for the parents and the grown-up cousins to hide the eggs. We're not thinking the Easter Bunny's out there in the yard hiding the eggs. Okay, we already know that there's no Easter Bunny. But for some reason, Santa Claus, we hadn't figured out yet that there was no Santa. And I have heard that some kids are devastated when they find out that the Santa Claus is not real. Now, maybe you folks think that's just hilarious, that nobody would be devastated to find out there's not a Santa Claus. But what if they are? The damage is done. But what if they're not devastated? The damage is still done. You've been told that lying is a sin. Not just wrong, but a sin. And we're told that a sin is something you do that harms God. Now, some people say that what sin is something that just God disagrees with, or God doesn't approve. They told us that sin is a thing that you do that harms God. Now, in retrospect, I asked the question, how do you harm a being that is all powerful? A being that is all knowing. A being that is all present. How do you harm a God like that? I don't think you can. So I don't think there is such a thing as sin. But they made us feel really super, super bad about it. And then, after drilling it into our heads that sin and a lying being a sin was such a bad thing, they lied to us about Santa Claus. So I wasn't particularly devastated about Santa Claus. It just kind of slipped on in there, you know. They used a lot of lube, I guess. Now, the other day in a video, I had a brief mention about Santa Claus, and I realized I need a whole video about Santa Claus. And there are parents that make a humongous deal about making sure that you don't reveal the secret that Santa Claus is not real. And they'll get real upset if you accidentally blurt it out. Well, let's make sure the kids are out of the room if we're going to talk about Santa Claus not being real. Don't you dare. Don't you dare tell my children that Santa Claus is not real. And then once you have discovered it, if you're 10 or 11 or 12 years old, if there's 8-year-olds in the room, don't you dare tell them that there's no Santa Claus. It'll break their little hearts. Well, maybe you broke their little hearts when you lied. I think that's the real problem. Once you can teach somebody how to lie with impunity, now you have to figure out how you can separate your truth from your lies, and you have to keep up with them. How do you keep up with over here? Over here is your pile of truth, and over here is your pile of lies. How do you remember? I would just much rather know where I stand with somebody than to have a constant worrying about whether you can remember all your lies or not. So wouldn't it be better not to teach folks that lying is a bad thing, but maybe a little fib here and there is okay? Maybe does my dress make my butt look big? No, honey, it looks fine. It's a beautiful dress. It looks great. Don't worry. Your butt looks fine. Well, maybe I don't like that dress. Yep, your butt looks huge. There was a commercial where the guy's sitting at the kitchen counter and he's reading his newspaper. The wife comes in from the other room. Does this dress make my butt look big? And he says, "You betcha." He's not paying her any attention. I forgot what product it was, but I always thought that was a cute commercial. If you ask me if your butt looks big in your dress, I'm probably just going to tell you, yep, it does. I actually don't care because I love big butts. You know, I won't say the bigger the better. I mean, there is some kind of, you can reach a limit somewhere. I can't say too much though because I'm 300 pounds myself. I wish my butt were bigger than my belly, but not at the cost of having such a huge belly. But anyway, I digress. A little lie, little fib. I remember another time when I was doing an interview for a job, working at a convenience store, gas station. You know how it works. There's products, like chips and dip, colas and beer and um, charging cords and little knickknacks and things that you can buy while you're in there buying gas. Of course, these days most of us use their credit or debit card in the fuel pump, and maybe you don't even go in the store. I have heard that convenience stores make the majority of their money off of the products that you buy in the store. Um, but anyway, I also am digressing there. Anyway, this one particular convenience store that I interviewed for, um, there was a test you had to take. And you had to drive to the next town over, about 20 miles. And you had to take a lie detector test, and you had to fill out um, a questionnaire about how much have you stole in your life? Have you stole a pen from the teller? Have you stole somebody's lawnmower? Have you, what's the highest value thing you ever stole? And anyway, there's a bunch of questions about how honest you are and on and on. And so I did my test, and I turned it in, and 2 weeks later, I got the answer of whether we're going to hire you or not. And you get the results from your test. And the results of my test said, we think you lied on your test because nobody is that honest. I think the worst thing I did was I stole a pen from the teller once, but I had to drive back to the teller and turn it, hand the pen. Oh, it's okay. You can keep that. We give those away. Well, if you'd have told me that, it would have been nice, but you didn't tell me that. I thought I'd accidentally stole your pen, so I drove back to, I'm not perfect, okay? I might have stole somebody else's pen after that. Who knows? But anyway, their little test said, well, you're too honest to be real, so you're not hired. I think it's a fucking shame that we live in a society in which you can represent yourself as too honest to be real. I'm sure I pissed off a bunch of people by telling them what I really feel. Maybe some of you are pissed off right now. Maybe some of my audience is only here because they're pissed off. Well, good for you. But one thing is for sure. I am sick of this culture of teaching people that lying is bad, but then you can still do it. And especially Santa Claus, and especially God. Because all I have to do is look at Noah's flood to show that the Bible is not the inerrant word of God. And I'm sick of the Bible. And I'm sick of people popping up to explain why people are wrong about the Bible and why it's okay for God to kill people and rape people and enslave people. It's okay as long as God does it. Well, it's not okay to me. Santa Claus is not real. I'm sick of your lying to the children across the planet about Santa Claus. But I guess if you want to continue your religion and the power of your religion, you keep lying about Santa Claus, and the kids will believe your God exists too. That's right, Carp. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep doing it. You atheists are the real, true evil. Okay. If you had some compassion for your fellow humans, your morality was based upon preventing the suffering of your fellow humans and helping your fellow humans to flourish and to live happy lives, then I would prefer that kind of world to live in. But a God who can kill his enemies And it's okay as long as God does it. That is not the world I want to live in. I have heard that people are leaving the pews in droves. The church is getting smaller. Well, I hope so. Maybe you folks think, oh, nope, it ain't happening. You're wrong, Carp. Okay. It's okay if I'm wrong, but I just want you to consider have some compassion for your human compadres, for your neighbor, for your children. Think about when you're lying to your children, how you know that there is a God and that you know His wishes and how you're supposed to behave. Think more about having some compassion for your fellow humans because God doesn't care about you and your fellow humans. He only wants you to worship Him and praise Him and give Him your money so that you can have a bigger church building and an organ with more pipes and a more luxurious baptismal pool. So I hope you're happy lying to your children. Love you. Bye.